All right, hello everyone. This video today is on the Age of Genocide, exploring 20th century genocides, and I have to give credit where credit's due. So this presentation was done by DarfurWhat, so we're adapting it for our English language arts class. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so just looking at statistics, there's more than 50 million people who were systematically murdered in the past 100 years. So you really could call the 20th century the century of mass murder, just because in sheer numbers, there are more killings in the 20th century than it was throughout history. So it was pretty much the bloodiest period in human history. Just looking at the word genocide, let's define it and break it up based on its meaning. So geno means race, side means killing. So like pesticides, so anything that ends with cyanide, deals with killing. So the word genocide was coined in the midst of the Holocaust. So you put those two together, it's the meaning to kill an entire race. All right, so there are 8 stages of progression of genocide. Develops through these. So you have classification where people are identified based on their race, symbolization where a certain symbol is attached to them, such as the Jewish star. Then they're dehumanized, which is dehumanization, where they're taken, away their rights or what have you. There's organization where they're maybe isolated or put into groups such as ghettos. Polarization where they're separated from the rest of everyone else. Preparation, where they are preparing to take this group and transfer them somewhere else. And then there's extermination, which is trying to get rid of the group. And then finally, there's denial, which most people go through. Oh, we didn't do that. That didn't take place, which is pretty much fabrications. And they deny that it ever took place. All right, so in 1948, the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide defined genocide as acts committed with intent to destroy a whole or in part a national, ethnic, or racial or religious group. Now, notice the date. This took place after the Holocaust was over, so unfortunately, this was something that was reactive and wasn't necessarily put in place until the atrocities of the Holocaust. All right, so let's think about some 20th century genocides, and let's look at those. And here is a list, and we're going to talk a little bit about them and see if there's any that that you know of that I may miss. All right, so one of the earliest ones was in Namibia, which is in Africa. So Germany controlled part of Southwest Africa, which is a modern day Namibia. And basically, they wanted to wipe out the rebellious tribes, what they called rebellious tribes, through this ethnic cleansing. So he issued an order to exterminate the people that were there called a Herero. And these were basically people who were cattlemen, they were herdsmen, and they basically wiped them out, killed so many of them. And no prisoners, as you can see, were taken in his direct quote. And they wanted to destroy all the Herero people. All right, so then you had in 1915 the Armenian Genocide. So the U.S. ambassador to the Ottoman Empire, Henry Morgenthau Sr., concluded a race murder was occurring. And he said the persecution of Armenians is assuming unprecedented proportions from all over. So they were instances of rape, pillaging, where they go through and steal and take things and burn houses, and murders into massacres, bringing destruction from all over the place. And the whole focus was to kill the entire Armenian race. Now, there was controversy about this because the Turks, who was from Turkey, denied that the genocide ever took place. It's a very controversial issue to the Turks. Turkey suspended its military ties with France in 2006 after the French Parliament lower house adopted a bill that would have made it a crime to deny that the Armenian killings constituted as a genocide. So 23 countries acknowledged that the genocide took place, and in 2007 the Congress opened up a debate whether or not they should declare the Armenian event as a genocide or not. And obviously, these have huge repercussions if it was considered a genocide. All right, so the Ukraine. Now, if you've been watching the news lately, there's this big issue about Ukraine and Russia occupying Ukraine and getting the people out. Well, this connects directly to that because in 1932, at that time, the leader, Joseph Stalin, set in motion events to basically starve the people of Ukraine to death. And as a result, because they wanted to seek independence from Russia, so as a result, 7 million people died in this farming area. They were deprived of food that they had grown with their own hands, and so basically, as you can see from the picture, the people were starved to death. This is one that hasn't got a major publicity, but it's called the Nanking Massacre. Mr. Fleming actually mentioned this to me, and we may take another look at it. But in 1937, the Japanese army decided, from orders of the Nanking, or actually, they actually went to the city in China called Nanking to carry out orders to kill as many Chinese as possible. So they murdered 300,000 people out of 600,000 civilians and soldiers in the city. And this went over a 6-week period. And it's been known as the Rape of the Nanking because it was the single worst atrocity during World War II, either in Europe or in the Pacific. All right, so then we have the Holocaust, which you already know about. What you may not have known is that the Holocaust, which is a Greek word coming from sacrifice by fire, the Nazis came into power. They thought they were racially superior, thought the Jews were inferior, and so they wanted to separate them out, and obviously, sent them to the final solution. So it's basically a systematic, bureaucratic, state-sponsored persecution of about 6 million Jews by the Nazis. All right, so in Cambodia, a movie about this was called The Killing Fields, where a number of sites in Cambodia where a large number of people were killed and buried by a communist country or regime, the Khmer Rouge, which was ruled by the country from 1975 to 1979. So the massacres ended in 1979, where the communist Vietnam invaded the country and toppled the regime. All right, so you have the East Timor genocide. This was in Indonesia. So the Indonesian invasion of East Timor in 1975 set the stage for this long, bloody occupation of the territory that only ended due to international peacekeeping in 1999. Another one was in Guatemala, the Mayan genocide from 1981 to 1983. So you had this, according to the UN, there was the Army's perception of the Mayan communities as natural allies of the guerrillas contribute to an increasing and aggravating the human rights violations perpetuated against them. Demonstrating an aggressive, racist component of extremely cruelty that led to extermination of the Mayan communities. So basically, they went through the Mayan communities and they killed women, children, the elderly, through very cruel and inhumane methods, and impacted this country for 2 years in Guatemala. All right, then we have Iraq, the Anfal campaign against the Kurds. So it was a deliberate murder of 50,000, probably as 100,000 Kurds. It ended with this culmination of a long-term strategy to solve what they called as a Kurdish problem. So again, one group of people labeling another as a problem, and the systematic attempt to kill as many as possible. So they even used the Halabah in March 1988, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, was one of the chapters in which they used chemical weapons against this Kurdish village. All right, something a little bit more recent was in Bosnia. from 1991 to 1995. There was another conflict between the Republic of Bosnia and the three main ethnic groups there, the Serbs, the Croats, and the Muslims, which resulted in a genocide committed by the Serbs against the Muslims in Bosnia. So you have the Serbs and the Muslims fighting each other in an attempt to kill one group of people. All right, you have the Legacy of Mogadishu. It's the most violent U.S. combat firefight since Vietnam. Started off as an operation to capture this warlord, Muhammad Farah Aidid, and it turned into basically a firefight that lasted 17 hours. It left 18 Americans dead, 84 wounded, and continues to haunt the U.S. Since. All right, then, and you probably are aware of what happened in Rwanda. You had the Hutus and the Tutsis who were basically in a clash, or basically one group said that the other group was inferior, and we need to. What they called them, they were cockroaches, and said they need to rid them from the face of the earth. So the Hutus basically labeled the Tutsis as this inferior group of Africans that, they labeled them. They went through the whole, classification and removing them and things of that nature. And they basically end up killing 800,000 Tutsis were murdered during a 3-month period. And the international community just sat back and did nothing until later on. Even the UN did very little to kind of resolve the conflict. And then there's the effort of Rwandan Women for Change that, to help the situation. So, because like before 1994, Rwandan genocide boys outnumber girls by 9-1. Now today, boys and girls attend the school in equal numbers. Before the genocide, fewer than 6% of college graduates were female. Today, women make up as much as 50%. So you can see the staggering numbers and how things have quite differently or shifted before the genocide and after. And this is the last one that's going on even now. You have the issue in Darfur. And some people say it's debatable because whether or not it's considered genocide. But the death toll still stands between 100 and 500,000 people. So the question is, what about the Darfur crisis makes it a genocide? Why doesn't international community act? What roles does China play in the action? And so we'll look at what's going on in Darfur, where children are being taken from homes, boys are taken from homes, they're sent to these camps to be soldiers, people are killed daily, and there's just a huge issue going on there. Now, one of the things we're going to be talking about is social activism, looking at what are some of the issues, what can we do to raise awareness, how you can volunteer, and how we can help out. Now, while we're concluding this video, I want you to think about, are there any other genocides that I did not include that you're familiar with? And so think about that when you're answering the Google form and completing it in class. Any questions, concerns, thoughts, please feel free to share those in class. Thanks again for watching.